Hey guys, magandang umaga or magandang gabi depending on what time you're watching this video. My name is Monica and welcome to my channel. So big news, I have officially submitted my dissertation. It is all done now. And I thought the perfect video for me to do straight after I've submitted my dissertation as a way of celebrating was to make a video complaining about Monsters University.
I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I spotted several big mistakes.
Ever since I got Disney Plus, I have been binging a lot of the Disney movies and I have been watching a lot of Pixar, especially Monsters Inc. And one of the things that I hate is like a pet peeve of mine, it's continuity errors. I cannot stand them in a movie. They kind of ruin the movie for me if I'm gonna be honest. So today we're just going to be discussing Monsters University because it doesn't make any sense. So let me just start by saying that as standalone films, Monsters Inc. and Monsters University, I love them. I think that they are great films, they're family films and they're fun and they're just good watches, right? But I hate them as a series. All of our knowledge from the monster world and everything comes from Monsters Inc. and then obviously they've made Monsters University afterwards, even though it is a prequel. So let's just start at the very beginning of Monsters Inc. The first scene alone is showing a training program for new recruits for the scaring program. And this in itself doesn't make any sense to me, having watched Monsters University. Because why would you need a training program if you've had a whole university that trains you to be a good scarer? And why would Mr. Waternews, the head of the company, why would he be talking about how rubbish the new scarers are?
Frankly, they stink.
When apparently these are uni graduates, if we're thinking about the university, right? Why would you even have this university if all you're giving out are really bad scarers? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And then going on from that, the ad that they play near the beginning of the movie as well doesn't make much sense to me. This one may be just be a bit of like nitpicking, but talking about how they match up a monster to a specific child.
Carefully matching every child to their ideal monster to produce superior scream.
But the premise of Monsters University and how they get their degree, I think is really smart personally. I think the movie is smart in itself, like I said, but I just don't like them together. In order to pass your scaring degree, you need to know a variety of different scares and how to tailor your scare towards the child, right? You have a fact file on the child and you gotta know that what exactly that they're scared of in order to make them scream but not cry.
Alerting his parents, exposing the monster world, destroying life as we know it.
So if in the university they have to know all these different types of scares that aren't really in their field of scaring. At the beginning of the movie, Sully only really has one type of scare, and that's apparently a problem in Monsters University.
One frightening face does not a scarer make, Mr. Sullivan.
Because he has to know all these different other types of scares. But if you're just matched up to a child who's scared of your type of scaring technique, then what's the whole point of learning all these different scares anyway if they're just gonna match you up anyway? This next thing is basically the thing that opened my eyes to all of these continuity errors because I just cannot get over it. All the other things I guess maybe I could get over, but this thing I cannot get over. It basically destroys the entire premise of Monsters University, and it is this line right here in Monsters Inc.
You've been jealous of my good looks since the 4th grade, pal.
The 3rd grade. So they've known each other at least since the 3rd grade. So how can they have had this scene?
James B. Sullivan. Mike Wazowski.
Did you forget you put that in the first movie? This is what I don't understand about these things. Did you even watch the movie to begin with? I don't understand why you would have this. It destroys the entire plot of Monsters University basically because they're supposed to already have known each other by this point. So something that I also picked up on, and now this point may seem a little bit I don't know, maybe I'm like grasping at straws here, but I don't think people change all that much from university into like adulthood, right? Obviously you can change a certain amount, but to this extent that they've done it in comparison to Monsters Inc. and Monsters University, I think it's just too extreme for me. I feel like they swapped the personalities of Mike and Sully. And the first thing that I noticed was that in Monsters Inc., it's Sully who's like the brown nose. He's always like cozying up to Mr. Waternoose and always trying to seek his approval. But in Monsters University, he doesn't seem to really care about pleasing the authority figure, right? He does seem obviously a little bit bummed when his teacher is telling him that he's not, you know, diverse enough to succeed in this class. But I just don't really get the vibe that this basically dumb jock, that's the way that he's been portrayed to.
Or pencil. Forgot all my stuff. Yeah, there we go. That'll get it.
That's another thing I didn't like about Monsters University. They've kind of simplified their characters into Mike is the nerd and Sully is the dumb jock, right? Whereas in Monsters Inc., they had much more diverse personalities than that.
You don't need to study scaring, you just do it.
Really? I think there's a little more to it than that.
I'm gonna head home and work out some more.
Again, you know, there's more to life than scaring.
And I just didn't really like the way that they did that. I don't like what they did to Sully.
Oh. That was awesome.
In the same streak, they've obviously made Sully the dumb jock, but in Monsters University, he does this little move with the ladies that makes you think, yeah, he's good with the ladies, you know? He could get a girl if he wanted to get a girl. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But in Monsters Inc., and maybe this is just because it's Mike's girlfriend, not his, but he seems really taken aback when Celia tries to talk to him.
Hey, Sully Wully.
Oh, hey, Celia. Will ya?
And it just seems so awkward, and I feel like if he was so confident in university, he wouldn't be feeling this type of awkwardness towards another girl, regardless of whether it's his best friend's girlfriend. I just felt like that didn't make a lot of sense. The next point. Mike is not good at paperwork.
You didn't file your paperwork last night.
Wouldn't it be easier if it all just blew away?
And we see this. This is basically part of his personality in the first movie. And Roz is on his back about him never completing his paperwork, which actually leads to them finding Boone at the beginning. So it is quite important to the plot that he doesn't do his paperwork. But in Monsters University, you never get the sense that he would ever do anything late, behind schedule. He will always meet the deadline. He is on his game all the time, especially when it comes to something that's as important as scaring, regardless of it's not exactly the job that he was going for, but it's still, I don't think conscientiousness as your personality trait would change that much. You just get the idea that he's kind of a slacker when it comes to paperwork, but in Monsters University, there is no way. There's no way he would do any of that late, you know? This bit annoys me. Randall. I agree, it was cute to see Randall in his glasses and seeing him dorky, whatever. No, I take it back. I hated it. I hated it so much. It does not fit his personality. As I am saying, I don't think someone can change that much. Maybe from childhood into university, sure. But I don't think you can just turn into a bully from that, you know? Like, he was so dorky. And I just... the way that he talks to them in the locker room in Monsters Inc.
It scares little kids and little monsters.
I wasn't scared. I have allergies.
Sure.
It doesn't insinuate the fact that they knew each other before this job. I don't know what else to say about that. I just didn't like it. It didn't seem right to me. The personalities don't match up. Next point. So we're coming to the end of my issues with this movie now. The Abominable Snowman cameo in the mailroom at the end of Monsters University.
I'll have you know tampering with the mail is a crime punishable by banishment. Yes, sir.
We're right on it, Mr. Snowman.
I hated that. I hated that so much. You know why? Because of this scene.
He is not my friend.
Oh, I just assumed you were buddies, you know, when I saw you out there in the snow hugging and all.
There is no indication that he knew them before then, and he was their boss, basically in the mailroom, he would have remembered them. Why did he say that I assumed you were buddies because you were rolling around in the snow? Why wouldn't he say something like, oh, I remember you guys from when I was your boss and you guys were buddies? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just small things like that. They just don't add up for me and they bug me so much. And finally, my last issue with this movie, Roz's cameo at the end of Monsters University.
You can be sure we'll be watching these two.
This scene insinuates that Roz started working at Monsters Inc. because of Mike and Sully. That's what it insinuates, and that is definitely not the reason in Monsters Inc. that she works in Monsters Inc. Because they knew that something was going on. There was something shady going on inside Monsters Inc. about, you know, stealing children and basically extracting their screams by this huge sucking machine. If you haven't seen the movie, it is very disturbing. That's the reason that she went undercover and worked in that factory. Nothing to do with Mike and Sully. In Monsters Inc. it just so happened that these two guys got caught up in the middle of it because of the paperwork. And then they just so happened to find Boo and then get involved with all of this, and then they were thanked because, you know, they would have known it all the way up to Mr. Waternews. It is my favorite scene in the movie.
Let's watch my favorite part again, shall we?
So yeah, that's why I can't really watch Monsters University and enjoy it as much as I really could do it, because I just know in the back of my mind this isn't right. They've written these characters wrong, the plot doesn't make any sense, and I hate the cameos that they've done. That's just it. I hate them so much. Also, if I'm really nitpicking, there is no indication that Sully comes from like a legacy line, but whatever, that's just me. If you're gonna do a sequel, prequel, anything, just make sure you do it right. I do have qualms with a few other movies that have done something like this, like Mamma Mia. Maybe I'll do a video on that. I don't know. So as I said, I do enjoy the movies as standalone films, but when you really think about certain details from each one, they just don't add up, and I really don't like it. And as a side note, this whole system with how to get into the scaring program, if they're so prejudiced about if you don't look scary, you're not gonna succeed as a scarer.
What you lack is something that cannot be taught. You're not scary.
Shouldn't they ask for like a picture of the person when they're applying to the university? I don't know if that's like an invasion of privacy or whatever, but you know, pharmacists, in order to even get into the course to be a pharmacist, they have to do interviews, right? So that it could be basically the same thing, like get an interview to do this job first if it's so important that you do this job, because scaring makes the world go round in the monsters world. Wouldn't that make more sense to you, just to add a picture? Anyway, let me know how you like this video, guys. So thank you for watching if you stayed until this point, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.